Picture this: you just moved into your dream home, excited for a fresh start. But then, a neighborhood tyrant, the HOA Karen, decides you're her new target. She calls the cops on you, tries to sabotage your business, and makes your life a living hell. Until one day, she needs a place to live, and unknowingly signs a lease with you, the man she's been tormenting. Get ready, because this is the story of how the HOA Karen messed with the wrong landlord. It was a sweltering summer afternoon when the shrill ring of my doorbell shattered the peace of my newly acquired home. I opened it to find a woman I'd only seen from a distance. A petite, tightly wound blonde in her late 40s, with a perpetual scowl etched on her face. Her name was Brenda, but everyone in the upscale community of Oakhaven knew her as the HOA Karen. She clutched a clipboard to her chest like a shield, her eyes narrowed to slits as she surveyed my perfectly manicured lawn. "Mr. Henderson, is it?" she began, her voice dripping with an artificial sweetness that did little to mask her disdain. "I'm Brenda Maxwell, head of the Oakhaven Homeowners Association. It has come to our attention that you've installed an unapproved garden gnome in your front yard. This is a clear violation of Article 7, subsection C of our community bylaws." I blinked, genuinely confused. A garden gnome? I had indeed placed a small, whimsical gnome, a housewarming gift from my sister, near my rose bushes. It was hardly an eyesore. "A garden gnome?" I repeated, trying to keep the amusement out of my voice. "Are you serious?" Brenda's face hardened. "Our bylaws are very serious, Mr. Henderson. We strive to maintain the aesthetic integrity of Oakhaven. You have 24 hours to remove it, or face a daily fine." That was my first encounter with Brenda, and it set the tone for the months that followed. It wasn't just the gnome. It was the color of my mailbox, the slightly overgrown branch of a tree that dared to extend over the sidewalk, the unapproved wind chime I'd hung on my porch. Every week, a new complaint, a new threat of a fine, a new reason for Brenda to materialize at my door, her clipboard at the ready. I tried to be reasonable. I even tried to humor her, removing the gnome and replacing it with something equally innocuous, only to be met with a new set of demands. It became clear that Brenda wasn't interested in enforcing rules. She was interested in exercising power, particularly over the new, seemingly carefree bachelor who had dared to disrupt her perfectly ordered world. Then, things escalated. I ran a successful online marketing business from home, which occasionally required me to have packages delivered. One afternoon, a delivery truck idled outside my house for a few minutes too long as the driver sorted through his parcels. The next day, I received a scathing letter from the HOA, citing excessive commercial traffic and threatening a hefty fine. I knew it was Brenda. But the true sabotage came when I decided to host a small, casual barbecue for some friends. We were mindful of the noise, keeping the music low and wrapping things up by 10 p.m. The following morning, 2 police officers arrived at my door, informing me they had received a complaint about a loud and unruly party that had disturbed the peace and involved suspicious activities. I was mortified. My friends were respectable professionals, and the idea of them being involved in anything suspicious was laughable. The officers, seeing no evidence of a wild party or any ongoing disturbance, quickly left, clearly understanding they'd been called out on a frivolous complaint. The incident, however, unnerved me. It made me feel like I was under constant surveillance, that Brenda was actively seeking ways to disrupt my life. I was furious, but also bewildered by her relentless hostility. What had I ever done to her? What Brenda didn't know, however, was a crucial piece of information. For the past year, I had been quietly investing in real estate, particularly in upscale communities like Oakhaven. My strategy was to purchase properties that were struggling or in foreclosure, renovate them, and then rent them out. It was a lucrative venture, and I had managed to keep my identity as a landlord separate from my personal life. One of my most recent acquisitions was a beautiful, 2-story house on Magnolia Lane, just a few blocks from my own home. The previous owner had fallen on hard times, and the house had been a mess. After weeks of renovations, it was finally ready to be put on the market for rent. The day I placed the "For Rent" sign, I received an email from my real estate agent. "Good news, Mr. Henderson." It read, "We have a tenant for 123 Magnolia Lane. Her name is Brenda Maxwell." She was absolutely thrilled with the place and signed the lease immediately. My blood ran cold. Brenda Maxwell, the HOA Karen, my tormentor, and now my tenant. A mischievous, yet undeniably delicious, idea began to form in my mind. I decided to keep my identity as her landlord a secret for as long as possible. I wanted to see how she would react when she finally discovered the truth. A few weeks later, Brenda moved into 123 Magnolia Lane. I kept a low profile, avoiding any direct contact. I received routine updates from my agent. Brenda was a meticulous tenant, paying her rent on time and keeping the property immaculate. The irony was not lost on me. Here she was, so obsessed with community bylaws, yet unknowingly renting from the very man she had been trying to drive out. Then came the inevitable. A minor repair was needed at 123 Magnolia Lane, a leaky faucet in the kitchen. My agent informed Brenda that the landlord would be sending a maintenance person to assess the issue. The day of the repair, I decided to go myself. I put on a nondescript work shirt, grabbed my toolbox, and drove over to Magnolia Lane. I rang the doorbell, my heart pounding with a mixture of anticipation and nervous excitement. Brenda opened the door, a polite, almost pleasant smile on her face. It was the first time I'd seen her without her usual scowl. "Hello," she said. "You must be the maintenance person. Come on in." I stepped inside, careful to avoid eye contact as I made my way to the kitchen. I deliberately kept my voice low as I assessed the faucet, making small talk about the weather. Brenda, surprisingly, was cordial, even offering me a glass of water. As I worked on the faucet, she began to complain, as always. "You know," she said, sighing dramatically, "this community used to be so peaceful. But lately, we've had some undesirable elements moving in. There's this new fellow, Mr. Henderson, who lives a few blocks away. He's just trouble. Always breaking HOA rules, hosting loud parties, causing all sorts of disturbances. I've even had to call the police on him. He just doesn't seem to understand how things work around here." I tightened a wrench, my lips twitching to suppress a smile. "Is that right?" I mumbled, my back to her. "Oh yes," she continued, oblivious. "He's a real piece of work. I don't know why some people think they can just come into a community and disregard everything. I'm thinking of taking it to the next level, perhaps even legal action." I finished with the faucet, tested it to ensure it was no longer leaking, and then slowly turned around to face her. I wiped my hands on a rag, and then, with a slow, deliberate movement, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a key. It was the master key for all my rental properties, including 123 Magnolia Lane. Brenda's eyes widened as she saw the key. A flicker of confusion crossed her face, then dawning horror. I held up the key, a calm, almost serene smile on my face. "Brenda," I said, my voice finally devoid of any pretense, "I believe this belongs to your landlord." Her face, usually so composed and self-assured, crumbled. The color drained from her cheeks, leaving her pale and visibly shaken. Her jaw dropped, and she literally froze, her eyes darting between my face and the key in my hand. The clipboard she usually carried was nowhere in sight, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of genuine fear in her eyes. The silence in the kitchen was deafening, punctuated only by the drip of the now-fixed faucet. Brenda stood there, utterly speechless, her carefully constructed world collapsing around her. The HOA Karen, the woman who had made it her mission to sabotage my life, was now staring at her landlord, the very man she had so vehemently despised. The tables had not just turned, they had been spectacularly, deliciously, and irreversibly flipped, and that, my friends, is how the HOA Karen finally got a taste of her own medicine. What do you think she did next? Let me know your theories in the comments below. If you loved this story of poetic justice, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more unbelievable tales, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Thanks for watching.